What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video, and definitely leave a comment. Later this week, we'll be putting out more interviews, so stay tuned. Today's a day I'm going to answer a question that a lot of people have asked me. They said, Chad, could you talk about your worst day in federal prison? So, some of you might think that my worst day in prison was the day that I got stabbed, right? Or you might think it's the day when I seen somebody murdered or I seen some vicious violence. But no, those aren't the worst days. The worst day was the day when I felt like God was looking down at me from a cloud and laughing at me. It was almost like I could see him. I was laying on the ground after a vicious assault happened on the yard, and I'm just looking up at the clouds. I feel like God's there laughing at me. So today I'm just going to read a portion of the book, man, and we're going to talk about that worst day, so that you can better understand it and why. But that worst day is the day when you realize that this is it. This is really your life. This is from chapter 15 of my book, Blood on the Razor Wire. Living the street life comes with consequences. For me, those consequences came with a severe sentence and my placement in a prison where my life could be taken at any moment. Feeling the need to be alone with my thoughts, I opt for the yard this morning. Mornings are the one time where there is peace here at Big Sandy. As most of the convicts are required to be at their jobs. Being new, no job assignment has been made for me. And with a 40-year prison term, a job is the last thing that I want. Guys in here work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for about $20 a month on average. For some convicts, jobs pass the day. I would rather pass my day playing handball and walking the track. My hope is that today will be better than yesterday. Some of my uneasy tension has become a bit suppressed with the realization that this is my life. Every morsel of Big Sandy is part of my life now. From the violence to the razor wire, it is all part of me. I earned it according to my federal sentencing judge. 40 years in Big Sandy was sufficient for my nonviolent drug conviction. Some days I feel like I don't give a fuck about anything. It is usually the days when I replay my sentencing day. The day when my mother disappeared and left me wondering if I would ever see her again. Reality is, I have to be here. Making the best of it is the only option. There are many people on the yard today than usual. My peaceful walk alone with my thoughts fade quickly, as I easily recognize that there is tension on the yard. The tension is so thick you can cut through it with a knife. Already my prison instincts are coming to fruition. One of the most important tools I have learned within the first few days of being here is that I must be observant. Being able to recognize everything going on around me is one key to surviving in this hellhole. Scanning the yard like a hawk soaring over an open field, looking for prey, I notice Mexican prisoners forming small groups all around the yard. This world I now live in is a dog-eat-dog world filled with lions and hyenas, with very few zebras. Deep discussions are being had between the shot caller for the Serenos and some of his soldiers. My secret hope is that whatever problem is afoot has nothing to do with the whites and Mexicans. There are about 20 white convicts on the yard, including me, compared to at least 75 Mexicans. We would get slaughtered. Thinking back to what Adam told me about the Serenos, I know every one of them is likely armed with a shank. This thought convinces me that as much as I might not want a knife, it may very well be time to get one and keep it on me at all times. Being here in Big Sandy, I know now that I would rather get caught with it than not with it. As the thought filters through my subconscious, I find out the problem with the Serenos has nothing to do with the whites when a large Mexican soldier grabs one of his comrades from behind in a chokehold. The victim is another Sereno, named Noki, who also lives in the same unit I am housed in. More Serenos circle Noki. They deliver punches to his head, face, and body. Before long, he is rendered unconscious. The large Mexican lets Noki's limp body fall aimlessly to the ground. Other people join the fray, dishing out powerful kicks to Noki's head and body. One of the kicks wakes Noki from his comatose state. Using the nearby fence, his fingers lock onto the shiny metal as he pulls his body up. Finding his feet, he stumbles on a large push broom. Fighting for his life, he begins to swing the broom like Barry Bonds on steroids, chasing the home run record. Come on, puto, Noki screams like a wild animal as the warm blood runs down his face. One of the soldiers rushes in, swinging wildly. Noki's swing connects perfectly with the side of the combatant's head. Watching the first guy fall sends Noki into a raging fury. He backs up to the fence, yelling profanities in Spanish. His swinging intensifies in barbaric nature. 4 men rush at him at the same time. The broom connects with the side of one of the attackers. This slows Noki down. The others pounce on him like mountain lions on a fawn. The alarm finally goes off, ordering everyone to the ground. Most of the prisoners comply, but not the combatants. Once again, Noki is on the ground. The broom is now being used on him. Both Spanish and English are blaring out of the speaker, ordering all prisoners to the ground. When the first gunshot rings out, warning the soldiers that live rounds will be coming if the brutal assault does not cease. Bang, bang! I feel an explosion. Officers circle the serennials. Small black balls sail through the air, hitting everyone in the vicinity. One man screams. I look up, shielding my eyes. I think he is shot. But no. Concussion grenades are being deployed to break up the melee. Another one explodes and I cover my head with my arms. Warning shots ring out again from the guard towers. Officers enter the gladiator pit, tackling the men to the ground with no remorse. I envision some old clips of the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers defense. One man is picked up and body slammed. Another grenade comes flying down from the guard tower. It explodes in the air, sending little black balls everywhere. They are ricocheting off the ground, off the handball walls, flying everywhere with no intended target. Whoever gets hit, gets hit. The balls do not discriminate. The guard tower stands over 30 feet high. Sharpshooters are stationed to each of the 7 towers. I cover my head with my arms. I'm face down on the ground. My only hope is that I'm not hit by a live round if those start flying. With staff in the area, I'm probably safe though. Usually when correctional officers are in the area, the cops in the gun towers refrain from letting real bullets fly. I am thankful that staff has arrived and that with their arrival, my chances of being accidentally shot have diminished. Had staff not arrived when they did, there is no doubt in my mind that someone would have been shot. These combatants had an order from the shot caller to complete a mission, assaulting Noki until he died, or until the cops arrived to stop them. The attackers had no intention of stopping. Even the gunshots did not deter them. The threat of possible death meant nothing. In the real world, the thought of getting shot or killed would be a deterrent. In here, the real world has long been forgotten by these men. When you are in a place like this with a sentence of forever, death becomes a welcoming thought. Once everything is lost, there is nothing left to live for. There is no fear of death. A man with a life sentence has been through so many ups and downs on that long criminal justice roller coaster that no emotions remain. With sentences ranging from 30 years to life, there is nothing left that can be done to hurt the man who has been stripped of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That man sees death the same way a Muslim martyr does. The hope is that there will be something better on the other side of the rainbow, because this side has nothing but suffering, pain, and loneliness. Fuck rainbows. I don't like them no more. Many people like me are serving draconian sentences for nonviolent drug offenses. What is mind-boggling to me is that while these 40-year sentences for nonviolent drug crimes are being handed out, the average sentence in federal court for murder is 22 years. Had I killed someone, I likely would have been sentenced to 18 less years. The federal criminal justice system no longer has a parole system. When that door slams behind every prisoner with a crucial sentence, there are only 2 ways out of here: winning relief in court or a body bag. Sadly, most people will leave here in a body bag. With my sentence, if I behave, I will get about 5 years off my term. Instead of getting out at 64 years old, I can get out at 59. That truth disturbs me. With no incentive to do the right thing, many of the men around me become vultures, living a barbaric life, riddled with anger and violence on an astronomical level. Behaving yourself in prison is almost impossible because other prisoners' actions dictate your reactions. Those reactions might require a person to stab the other person. Sometimes those reactions don't leave a person any choice. The prison machine is designed in such a way that it applies oppression. It's designed so the prisoner never wins. It's designed so the prisoner always loses. Like with Noki, he was fighting for his life. Had he simply not fought back, he would have certainly died. Once he fought back, he earned a write-up for fighting. There's no such thing as self-defense in prison. Once a prisoner starts swinging, he loses 27 good conduct days on average. When Noki gets back from the hospital, he'll be taken in front of a disciplinary hearing officer. That's his reward for fighting for his life. He'll now have to spend 27 more days in prison, where any one of those days could be his last. His gang will no longer want him after the brawl. Noki is now a marked man. A man marked by one of the most vicious prison gangs in the system, one of the most dangerous, the Serenos. Noki's provocation was a common one. He owed the Crips for heroin. Owing money to the blacks is not allowed by the big homie, the man who calls the shots for the gang. Noki has 2 yard violations. He was dealing with the blacks and he couldn't pay his debt. In order to avoid a physical conflict with the Crips, the beating was on full public display. Hands laid, Debt paid is the common theme in here. The debt was paid with Noki's blood, kind of like Christ paying the debt of sin on the cross. In Big Sandy, the sinners keep sinning. Noki, like many before him and many who will come after him, allowed his heroin addiction to get out of control. His tab kept riding higher with his needs to get high. Knowing he could not pay never dissuaded him. The thought of getting hurt or killed did not override his hunger to let the fish swim through his veins. When the Crips had enough of the false promises of payment being made, they went to Noki's shock collar. They knew that the only payment they would see would be blood, and they likely enjoyed that prospect. When assaults like the one on Noki happen, it is akin to the spectators of the old Roman gladiator pits cheering for the victim to be finished. Most of the men here enjoy seeing a good violent scuffle, secretly pray they are never on the receiving end. Had the Crips taken it upon themselves to assault Noki, the whole yard would have erupted like a festering volcano. It would have created a full-fledged war between the Hispanics and the blacks. Such a war would have reached every other maximum security prison in the federal system that houses Serranos and Crips. At least that would be the likely scenario. The easiest way to settle the dispute was to punish Noki by vicious means. His death or his transfer to another facility after his physical discipline evened the score. Dealing with the blacks, owing a debt to them, ensured he was ostracized from his gang. For the rest of his time in prison, he's a marked man. Another unwritten rule in here is that you never stop beating or stabbing another prisoner until either staff intervenes or you kill the person. This is how every car, group, or gang operates. One thing that I'm intrigued by is why Noki's gang brothers allowed him to get so far in debt, knowing the end result was going to be an attack like this. My guess is the people who knew were getting high with him. The others had no money to pay for the heroin, but Noki had both the balls to deal with the blacks and enough swagger to convince the Crips that he had money, at least initially. The cycle of prison life is vicious, like a pack of hungry wolves in Yellowstone National Park, searching for vulnerable prey. 2 hours of laying on the hard concrete causes pain to creep into my muscles. Some of the men are laying on their backs enjoying the warm summer sun. Others are talking among themselves. I too have changed my position to ease my discomfort. On my back now, I stare into the deep blue sky, tricking myself into believing that I can see Jesus Christ's face in the clouds. For a second, I whisper a plea for freedom to him. I blink my eyes a few times, and he's still there in the clouds. It's almost as if he is smirking at my request. I snicker at the absurdity of it, that I think I see him. Or maybe my snicker is because of the absurdity of him granting me freedom from here. Hell, he could have intervened a long time ago and put it in one of the jurors' hearts to vote to acquit me. He could have put it in all their hearts. Instead, he decided to send me to Big Sandy with a 40-year sentence, so he could sit in the clouds laughing at me. Whether he is really there in the clouds or not, I throw a middle finger to the laughing cloud. Fuck you, I mouth silently. This ain't funny. Before I can say anything more, officers are ushering us up to our feet. Brushing the dirt off the front of my pants, I scan the yard. The other men are grateful that they can finally stretch their legs out. As we head back to the housing units, I look back one last time before I walk through the doorway. He is there, in the clouds, laughing at me. That's my worst day in prison right there, man. When I'm laying on the ground, I just see this kid get stabbed and beat. And I'm laying on the ground and I think God's laughing at me in the clouds. Because it's hard to understand when you're 24 years old that you got a 40-year sentence. It's hard to understand that this is it. This is what your life's going to be. You know, you smell the fresh air and you can see the grass. You can see the mountains. And you know, they call it the bluegrass state there in Kentucky. And you can see the blades of the grass, got a bluish tint. And it makes you think about your family, man. Sometimes it takes you back to when you were a kid playing in a schoolyard. Remember when you were on the monkey bars? Or remember when you were on the swing? It's the small things that matter, man. It's the small things that count. And you start to think about them. And then you realize that those things are forever gone. You know, the family picnics and, you know, meeting women or driving around in a car or simple things like going into a store and buying something to eat. They're forever gone. Those are the consequences of bad choices, man. Bad choices will have you laying on a yard looking at the clouds and thinking that God is laughing at you, man. And you know, I was in a daze, man, when I was laying out there. Because I was thinking, like, wow, this is my life. And in the book I talk about whether he's there or not, but you know what? It was real, man. It was almost as if I seen God in the clouds, and you probably think I'm crazy telling you that. But prison and a 40-year sentence messes you up mentally and emotionally. It messes you up to the point that you really think God's laughing at you, man. You start to wonder, how could this ever happen to me, right? You would think, this doesn't happen to people like me, but it does. It happens to people like you. You, the person watching this video, it happens to people like you. And you know, I was going to bring a kid on that was my celly, man. He was a good friend of mine. He had talked about me in the live. He was supposed to come on, and we were supposed to have an interview with him this week. But we didn't. His name was Hunter, man. Some of you guys might know Hunter Thompson. Was commenting. I was like, Hunter, send me your number. He emailed me, sent me his number. We were going to do an interview. And then I get a message that says, Chad, call my mom. And I was busy. I had went to a wedding. I said, I'll call you tomorrow. And then I get a message from his mom that says, Chad, this is Hunter's mom. Pretty much she was the person writing me on Facebook telling me to call my mom. Hunter died, man. Another guy gone. Did all that time in prison, man, was a gang member, been stabbed in prison, cut in the face, came home, got his life together, and he's gone, man. Tomorrow's never promised, whether you're in the street or whether you're in prison. Make today, man, a new day. Make today be the day that you decide, man, I'm not going to be laying in a prison yard thinking God's laughing at me. Make today be the day that, you're not going to be on a prison yard watching someone get stabbed. And like I mentioned in one of the lives, 2 weeks ago, 2 dudes were killed in Terre Haute, man. USP Terre Haute in Indiana. Some people call it Terre Haute. But that could be you. You could be on the chopping block, man. You don't want to be that dude, man. I promise you that. Ain't nothing nice about getting stabbed, man. Ain't nothing nice about 4 or 5. You could be the baddest dude on the planet, man. 4 or 5 prisoners are jumping on you. One guy grabs you from behind. What are you really going to do? What can you do? Nothing you can do, man. You're stuck. You want to fight back. Your mind's telling you to do something, but you can't get loose. You can't get loose. There's nothing you can do but take the beating. Could you imagine what it was like when Noki was laying on the ground getting kicked in the head? And I mean that. That dude was getting kicked in the head. They were kicking this dude in the head like a soccer ball. I'll tell you what, man. I've seen some dudes brutally assaulted, man. I've seen some of the worst beatings you could ever imagine. Because there's no remorse in prison. These dudes are angry inside. They get hyped up when they're like, man, we're about to go on a mission. No one knows what that feeling's like when that adrenaline's pumping. You're like, yo, you're going on a mission. I guess dudes that have been in the military know what it feels like. But when you go on a mission, man, you're balls to the wall. You're hype, you're violent, you're angry, you're nervous. It's all kinds of emotions. And pretty much in a maximum security prison, the rules are the rules, man. You don't stop until the cops come. And sometimes the cops don't come. And sometimes they come, but they come too late. And that's how people end up dead. I've seen plenty of people go on missions and it's just to hurt someone or get them off the yard and they kill them. They accidentally kill someone and then guess what happens? All that tough guy shit's out the window when they start talking about giving you the death penalty or giving you life. Not a tough guy no more when that happens. I mean, some guys are like, so what, man? I got life anyway. But some guys only got 15 years, 20 years. Seen the dude in Polak, man. Had 90 days left. He goes on a mission because white dude ate the food. We were all told not to eat the food. He ate the bag lunch. Had nothing in the cell to eat. They came out, they killed him, man. Now dude's got 20 years. Another 20, 25-year sentence. He was about to go home in 90 days. Now he's going home in 25 years. Think about that for a minute. Let that sink in. You want to know about my worst day in prison? That was my worst day in prison. When I realized that razor wire that was dancing in the wind, that shiny metal, that this was my reality. That fence that locked me in was my reality. You would think you were a grown man. You should never be held captive, right? You should never be locked in a concrete bunker or surrounded by concrete walls. Hell no, man. You're a grown-ass man. You're a grown woman. A man and a woman are supposed to make their own decisions. If you don't want to be somewhere, you should be able to go. But when that gate slams and that judge hits that gavel, it's over. And that was the day, man, that I realized that this was it. This was my life. This was the life that I had to live, and I lived it. for almost 18 years, man. 18 years is a long time. 18 years of not being around your family. Those are the things that hurt, man. Watching your mother come on a visit and cry when she's got to leave. Watching your son come on a visit, or your daughter. They're 7 or 8 years old. They start crying because they want daddy to come home with them, or their mother. It happens to women too, man. When I was in FMC Lexington, I used to walk the yard. They had the women's camp right next door. And the crazy shit is this. They used to have outside visits, and you'd hear these little kids, "Come on, mommy." They'd be playing with their kids laughing and playing. And I'd be circling the yard listening to that, knowing that in a couple hours, that little 7 or 8 year old girl had to go home without her mom. You want to talk about real? You want to talk about raw? You want to talk about prison content? That's prison content. You not being a father. You not being able to be a mother. That's real. That's raw. Blood on the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out.